Welcome back. I'm Devi, and this is a straight up no frills Yin Yoga practice for the morning. Let's get to it. So we'll start out in butterfly pose. In this pose, bring the soles of the feet together, knees are wide. Your knees may or may not come all the way to the ground, and it's not important if they don't, as long as you're getting a stretch here in the inner thighs. That's what we're going for. And you can bring the legs a little closer in or a little farther away from you to get a stretch that feels good there. You can always choose to sit on a lift of a pillow, a folded blanket, or anything that you have to kind of change your orientation to gravity. And we will be here for 2.5 minutes total, and then we'll have a rest, and that's going to be the amount of time that we hold all the postures for this practice. You could have your hands on the floor, around the toes, or around the ankles, and start to settle into the pull of gravity here. Let gravity take your shoulders, your head, your neck. Let yourself be soft and let the breath begin to lengthen and become more smooth and easy. So there may be the stretch in the inner thighs. There may also be a stretch of the back body, the spine, the trapezius, the latissimus, these large muscles of the back, the sacrum, the low back. And you may want to breathe into this stretch, into the back body, into the inner thighs. Some people like to have support under the head for this pose, and if that's you, please feel free to pile up pillows or a bolster under your head. And release the pose, make your way onto your back for a 1/2 minute's rest. Close the eyes. Any position that feels good on your back. Feel the effects of the pose and feel the energy moving through your body. And releasing to bend the knees and roll over onto your belly for the Sphinx Pose. Elbows and forearms on the ground, palms can be down, hands can be clasped, whichever feels good. Always the option here, if you want to come up to something deeper, you could come into a seal pose. In your Sphinx or your seal, legs can be wider or narrower, depending on what feels good. Some people like to use props under the elbows and forearms, so a bolster or a couple of blocks is an option there. And now focus on relaxing your lower body from the waist down, legs and hips relaxed. Feet and toes relaxed, and even your low belly relaxed. And now from the ribs up, there's a little more energy happening. There's some lift of the crown of the head. There's a little energy of the elbows firming themselves down into the ground, the forearms into the ground. So the upper body is creating a lift that helps the lower body to feel this nice long static stretch of the fascia, particularly what's happening around the bones of the lower spine. The fascia of the SI joint, softening around the SI joint, around your tailbone, around your lower back. Softening the front of the pelvis and softening the low belly. As you breathe into this area, and slowly releasing down and pressing back to child's pose for a half a minute's rest. And now coming up, hands and knees, and into quarter dog pose. So this is puppy pose, but with one arm at a time. So right arm forward, left hand turns, left elbow turns, so that the forearm is under your face, and then you'll bring your forehead down onto that forearm. And this is primarily a stretch for this right arm, the extended arm, the armpit area, and down the ribs. And you can play around with letting your hips shift a little bit to one side or the other. The knees are pretty much under the hips here, but you can play around with that and make them a little farther back or a little farther forward or a little farther away from each other or closer. And with the help of this arm under your forehead, see if you can dip your chin down toward the ground more. You might be someone who easily brings your chin to the ground. You might even be someone who easily brings your chest to the ground. Good, releasing and switching sides. So we're doing half of our time on each side in this pose. Right forearm under the forehead, stretching into the left armpit, left shoulder. And releasing, come up to hands and knees and downward facing dog. Lift up the hips and start to bring some movement into the legs, walking the legs, bending one knee at a time, and feeling the arms and shoulders that you just stretched. And now bringing it into sleeping swan pose. Take your right leg forward, so drop the knees first. Take the right knee forward and turn the shin so that the foot comes over towards your left hip or maybe up towards your left armpit, whatever your range of motion is here. And now settling down onto the elbows, onto the forearms. There's the figure four pose as an alternative. If you're someone who has pain in the knee here, then take that alternative pose on the back instead. Right ankle over the left knee, like so. And some people want to have a block under the head for that, or a pillow. Make yourself comfortable. Always choosing the pose that feels right for you and modifying as you need to so that you don't have any pain. and so that the practice feels like it's working for you. So we're working to stretch the right glutes, and if you're on your back in that figure 4, it's the same target area, right glutes. And you might rest your forehead down like this, or you might stay up on your elbows. Settling into gravity, relaxing with the breath. And slowly releasing, downward facing dog. 30 seconds here. If you prefer to just be more restful in child's pose, that would be a fine choice right now. Otherwise, we're gonna take our 30 seconds here, walking the leg, feeling a little juice in the arms, and you can play around with this dog with whatever kind of movement feels good to you today. Second side, left leg forward, or on your back in the figure 4 with the left ankle over the knee. So I've got the interval timer going for this practice in 3-minute intervals with 2.5 minutes for the pose and 30 seconds for the rest. Steady breathing. And releasing, coming back to downward dog, child's pose, or if you want to join me in a plank pose, that's where I'm going to go for 30 seconds. Forearm plank, I should say. Elbows and forearms on the ground. If you like the yang transitions between yin poses, not everyone does. And it's okay if you don't. That's it. 30 seconds already. Come on and sit with your legs in front, left leg forward, right leg bent, half butterfly pose. Again, the choice is always there in the forward bends to sit on a pillow, a couple pillows, folded blankets, or what have you. And you may wish to explore different angles here rather than going directly over the leg, inside the leg or outside the leg. And there's many versions of half butterfly pose that I have other videos about. And I won't talk too much today. Mostly we just want to make sure we're getting a stretch in the back of the leg, the hamstrings, and maybe also the more you relax your head and your shoulders, you're feeling a stretch in the back body and the spine. And releasing, coming back up. And both legs in front, lean back on the hands for a moment and just lift up into an upward facing plank, maybe sending the head back if it feels good. And lower the hips back down and take it into second side, right leg forward, left leg bent, half butterfly, second side. Staying connected to your breath, connected to what you're feeling in your body. Where do you feel the stretch right now? And what's happening in this moment? And releasing, coming onto your back to rest for 30 luscious seconds. And bend your knees, hug them into your chest, and lift your forehead up towards your knees. And release your head back down, coming into spinal twist, both knees to the right. So I'm going to skew my hips to the left first, and then take the knees to the right, reach the left arm out to the left, right hand on the legs. So some of you might like to cross the knees like this with this twisted roots variation. Some of you might like to have a pillow or a couple pillows under the knees or the feet or both. I'm going to do the pillow under my feet today because I like that. I like to cross my knees and have the pillow under the feet. Lots of variations of spinal twists that, again, I'm not talking too much in this practice, but there is a whole class if you search for my Yin Yoga twist exploration class. Breathing into the spine, breathing into the twisting action of the torso, the stretch of the waist, and all the little muscles between the ribs and the chest, left side of the chest. And notice the position of your head and your neck here. Good, releasing knees back up to the center, right over to the second side. Making whatever wiggles you need to make, whatever adjustments to find that eventual place of stillness, comfortable stillness ideally. One of the reasons that we can be so particular about our accommodating different bodies in yin is because we have these long holds, and if you're in a pose that doesn't work for your body, it's kind of not, it's okay in a regular hatha or a vinyasa practice because you don't generally hold the pose for that long. But when we're doing these 3-minute holds, it can be quite miserable to be stuck in a posture that is not right for you and for your individual anatomy. So there's a lot more exploration that can and should be done when doing yin yoga. And that's what so many of my classes are about. And my teacher training is all about that. And a few other things. Breathing into the belly, breathing into the low back, the waist, the ribs as they twist, the spine as it twists. And slowly bring the legs back up to the center and come into a final relaxation position for 3 luscious minutes. Close the eyes, make yourself comfortable. Add any extra clothes or a blanket if you'd like to keep yourself on the warmer side. Feeling everything that's happening inside as a result of the practice, and feeling any places where there might be that last little bit of tension or holding, anything that you can let go of at this moment. And now taking a breath into this spacious body, ribs, belly, back, arms and legs. And a nice long breath out as your body becomes even more relaxed, as you let your weight sink down to the ground, down into the ground a little more deeply. Body open and soft, your mind relaxed. Your hands and your feet open, relaxed, and your heart open to what's to come, embracing, feeling, loving, sharing. Inviting your practice to not only relieve stress, but to make you a better human. And inhaling your intention into your belly, your back, your heart. And as you exhale, gently wiggle your fingers and your toes and stretch out into your arms and your legs. And bend your knees and roll over onto one side. Coming on up in your own time. And that's our practice today. Thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful day. Namaste. And if you enjoyed this practice, I hope you did, please hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to my channel and check out my other latest yoga videos. I'll see you next time.